Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today. We're going to give a couple of more minutes for everyone to join us today for this quick live stream video of our user interface with Axis Neuron. So stay put for a few more and we're just going to wait for a few more people to join in. So let's give them a chance. All right, so I'll give it a few more seconds and then I just wait for more people to come by and join us for this quick live tutorial on user interface with Axis Neuron. All the questions that you guys have, just bring them through the conversation throughout the video. I'll leave the Q&A for after the quick tutorial session is done, and we'll just wait for a few more people to join in. And again, just want to say hi to everyone out there. And then anyone else who's going to be watching this video, we'll leave this video on the YouTube channel for everyone to reference it, check out any questions. So we'll have that there available. Okay, so I'll go ahead and start the live tutorial session here with just a user interface. As always, through every video, I want to remind everyone to contact us at contact@neuromocap.com. That is the fastest and quickest way to reach us through any questions all our users have, or anybody who's just heard about us. Any questions, just send it out to us at contact@neuromocap.com. We have staff there available for everyone to look at any questions out there, so definitely reaches out there. Again, we have a help desk which is also like a knowledge base. So any questions, any doubts you guys have, check it out. We have a lot of things covered there, and just feel free to browse around. And a quick reminder, 3 weeks ago, I always want to tell everyone to make sure that they never forget. We posted a video 3 days ago regarding the 3 essential keys of perception neuron. So it is very important for everyone to see this video, for everyone to use it as a reference. It's one of the I don't know, like what we say, the commandments of perception neuron, but it's the 3 essentials of perception neuron. So it's very important for everyone to look at that video. Don't overlook it. It's something that gives you a lot of insight of how to get started with perception neuron. As far as environment goes, placement, calibration, those are the 3 essential keys for perception neuron. So don't forget about that stuff. It's out there. If you have any questions, doubts, again, emails at contact@mocap.com. Okay, so this video is Axis Neuron user interface. Just a quick brief review of what Axis Neuron is and how important it is as a tool for perception neuron. It is something that it's used that's available for all our users. We have a demo of the software on our website for you to try out, test out. If you're using it for your workflow and you have any doubts about the software, feel free to download it, use it onto your workflow, and see how it adapts. Perception neuron and Axis Neuron uses the industry standards for the motion capture data that's produced from there. So this is something very important to understand how it works, top to bottom. Again, that's on our website. A lot of our users say, "How do I get my copy?" Register your hardware. Every perception neuron suit comes with a free copy of Axis Neuron full version. I left a link there for everyone to check out so that they can visit our website, and you're going to register your hardware there, and you'll get an email confirmation to download Axis Neuron. It is free for everyone that has a kit. and we also have a demo software available online. We have the release notes there. We have the manual for everyone to read. The manual has a lot of important information as well, likewise. So this is something not to overlook as well. Reading just read the whole text document. Very helpful tips in there. All right, thank you. So the Axis Neuron interface, it's not very intimidating. It's very simple. I blocked it onto this view for now. This is the most important parts of the Axis Neuron window. Every section has, its importance. And Axis Neuron, it's very straightforward. It's not very complicated. It's very straightforward. There's a workflow to understand, and there's also, exports to also understand. So this is kind of like the layout that I want everyone to feel comfortable with. I'll just go over a couple of tips about the software, and then after the quick video, I'll just jump into the software so that we can kind of quick overview of what's going on. So why is Axis Neuron important? I put a little guy out there, as this is a perception neuron gurus out there, everyone who's used a kid. So you guys are like workhorses out there with the perception neuron capturing motion capture there. So that's going in through Axis Neuron. Axis Neuron is basically connecting everything to your devices. If you're using HTC Vive game or anything out there that requires a motion capture suit, and it also connects to your software. If you have 3ds Max, if you have Maya, if you have Unity, we're getting more software out there. We have new software that's also compatible, as we spoke 2 weeks ago, Notch. We also have compatibility with applications. We have the Neuron SDK reader available for anyone who creates a plugin out there. So that's Axis Neuron is the connector of all that data. So Perception Neuron is the hardware, and Axis Neuron is just the brains of it. So it is also very important to understand the tools of what goes inside of the system, so that you can capture your system correctly. So the uses, really quick. The uses for Axis Neuron is capture, record, export, real-time data, and sensor maintenance adjustments. So those are the real uses of Axis Neuron. That's very important to always remember. So in capturing, you connect your perception neuron suit. We all do, so that we can start capturing the system. We get an instant feedback of what the movement is going on. We place the important data from your performer. As we spoke last week, the body size, you put your information, your body size, you do the posture calibration. All that information is very important, so that Axis Neuron understands, where the suit is being placed, who is it being placed on, and so that it can properly capture the movement. Otherwise, it's gonna do like a guesstimate kind of situation. So it is very important to put that information inside of Axis Neuron. You can also adjust parameters during the stage to ensure that you will capture motion correctly. Inside of Axis Neuron, there's a parameters window. Inside the parameters window, there's a couple of functions there that you can change, values, so that either you want the sensitivity of the sensors to capture foot contact, either extremely, sensitive, or you want it not very extremely sensitive. That's basically manipulating the calculation engine inside of Axis Neuron. So, that's very important. Now, when you're recording motion, you have two options of recording motion data, either at 60 hertz or 120 hertz. This feature is dependent on the working mode, connected onto Axis Neuron. We spoke about there's a video out there, working modes. Axis Neuron can record 60 hertz to 120 hertz. It all depends on what working mode you have. If you have 17 sensors or below, it's going to be 120 hertz. If you're doing 18 sensors and above, it's going to be 60 hertz. That's the way that the system works, how it reads that information. When you're recording, it is important to understand, how do you set up your directory, creating a folder, keeping your files organized, so that, after post, where your files are. By default, Axis Neuron creates a motion file folder inside of your documents. That's located in the NOIDM documents folder. You're not stuck to that. You can create another folder for every session. However your workflow is, you create the date of the motion capture with the name of the project, etc. However you do it, it's, it depends on your workflow there. Next one would be Axis Neuron will not only save a .raw file, but when you record, Axis Neuron also records an XML file and an FCD file. The XML file stores the parameters data, in the capturing stage that you select the parameters so that once you record, Axis Neuron will save that parameters information into your XML file. The XML file is just, you can open it in a notepad and you'll see all the data. It'll show the parameters, what functions you had on or off. If you had a contact point, if you had, the anti-mag selected or not. So, that's something that's very important to understand how it works. You select it during the capturing stage so that, you can prepare it. During the recording stage, it saves an XML file for that. So for the FCD file, when you're editing contact points, Axis Neuron will create an FCD file. This FCD file has all the data of the contact points. There's a timeline inside of Axis Neuron that you can contact. You can select contact, run a contact. I'll go more over that in a bit. So the FCD file saves that information. So if you're giving your file to somebody else down the production line and they ask for the raw file, for Axis Neuron, for any case, don't forget not only to give the .raw file, but also share them on the XML and FCD file. So those Axis Neuron, as long as it's in the root directory that you're working with, as long as those files are in that same folder, Axis Neuron will read that file. It'll gather those files and populate that information inside of your Axis Neuron interface. So that's very important as well. For the export portion of Axis Neuron, you have different options. This is the export window. You can export FBX. There's 6 different versions of FBX file. Anything from ASCII to binary to there's other options that that are flexible for FBX. We all know that Maya reads FBX. There's tons of software that read FBX. So a lot of versions there are pretty covered. We also export through BBH. You have the option of process, BBH, and 3ds Max on biped file. Through process BBH, you have special functions where you can export the T-pose if you want at the beginning of the MOCAP or at the end. So those are options. 3ds Max, you have the option of, it'll export the biped file for 3ds Max native. One surprising one is the, a lot of our users are not aware, but it's there. There's the .calc file. The .calc file will export like more of a spreadsheet style data of all the bone data, rotations that's been collected. If you have any more questions about the .calc file format, there's more information on our on our manual for Axis Neuron. Regarding how to read it, how to understand it. So I think a lot of our biomechanics users feel comfortable more with that data file for everyone out there. So those are important keys to understand. I'm reading out the questions here. I'll leave them after the quick review. Thank you again for those questions out there. Just keep them there. And let's jump into Axis Neuron so we can walk through quick steps on how to use it. So this is Axis Neuron, as we saw previously. I'll go extremely quick on the tools here. On the top left-hand corner, we have the file with, open file directory, recent directory. So this is file management. You can import stuff. You can import files. You can also export from here through the settings, export, import. You have the windows. You can change the layout. What I like to do is if I'm demoing for a client or something, maybe I could change, the window into more open-ended for perception neuron. There's also panels that you can, toggle on or off. There's also the welcome screen, so there's that option as well. You also have the tools way way back when we released Axis Neuron, we used to have a window or a special application called Neuron Doctor. Neuron Doctor is no longer, it's actually been integrated inside of Axis Neuron. So now you can, these are tools to calibrate your sensors and to upgrade your sensors. So remember what I said, this is like your sensor maintenance tools for Perception Neuron. And then you also have your help option here. So you can open, demo files, which comes with Axis Neuron. You can also open the body size demo files that are on as presets. There's also resetting layout. There's troubleshooting, window that takes you through step by step. If you're having any issues with your suit, these are kind of step by step, guides to guide you through the troubleshooting process. The working mode reference guide, we talked that over last couple of weeks regarding, the different working modes. There's a video out there. Working modes is very important to understand. Everyone has a different use for a motion capture suit. Perception Neuron is very modular. So, there's an option to use it for different cases, either for full body or just for single arm. So that's very important to understand. There's a quick start guide and about. As of this video right now, I am testing out the 3.8.42.6916. As of today, this is the current version. Okay. So again, I'm reading a couple of comments there. Hang on to them. I'll cover some of them through the video right now. So going back to the Axis Neuron, this is the viewport, and the viewport you can change the different layout to double. It's possible that I can select, this window here, and I could just say I want to follow the character on this window, and then I just want to have this one as a reference. So you can change different layouts here, single, double, triple, quadruple. I'm not sure how you can use quadruple. This is very advanced, but I guess if you got a 4K monitor, something like that, of that sort, the more landscape you have in your monitor, that could help as well. So let's go back into the single layout. So that, you can also do full screen. Up top here on the viewport, you have, you can just toggle on the background if you want. This is just for reference. If you have, if you just want to focus on the character, you can follow the character, and this option here where there's a little camera. So whenever the actor walks around, sometimes, you might lose focus of where the actor is. Maybe you just want to follow. So this is more of a follow cam for the actor. For this here, this is this toggle here, this little man here with a little dot in the middle, that's the center of gravity. If you just want to reference at the center of gravity for the person who's performing, you can toggle that on and off. This is very simple. This is, just the shadow input. Right now, there's there's no shadow right now. If the character is walking away from and off, and there's also the marker. Marker, of course, is like what I like to call the home base. This is where you're going to be doing your posture calibration and your zero pose in your environment. So this is something you can toggle on and off. We leave it by default for every time we're using Axis Neuron. So going into the next window here, this is the MOCAP toolbar. This is the record button. If you hit the record button, it won't work unless you have a suit connected right now. So this is, once you select that option, you can select the directory where you want to save the file, and you can name the file. Now, one thing interesting about that Axis Neuron will version up. So if you keep on hitting that record button, if you have a -1, -2, Axis Neuron will add another -1 to it, or -2, so it'll increment it, different versions. It'll version up automatically. It's just on by default. So then the next one is connect or disconnect. We also have the calibrate function here. We talked about in our previous video calibration steps. Calibration depends on what working mode you have. We have also a video there on the 3 essential keys to Perception Neuron, to use that as well. And the zero pose, of course, again, like I love to mention, is the home base, quote unquote home base of where you're going to be doing your posture calibration and your zero pose. So that is a function to zero out. And all that does just kind of resets the sensors. If it's picked up any data out there that's interfered, if you're walking around and by mistake, the sensor, kind of shoots out something that bad data, you hit that 0 button and it'll remove the any effect that it picked up during your motion capture. Again, it's effective during your capturing, not recording. So it's important that you do that before the recording. The next one is the shutter. Shutter right now is a limited available. That is a function that we had for Kickstarter. It's out there as an option for those who have our Kickstarter shutter option. That's just recording and calibrating remotely on there. Okay, so the next window is the sensor map and the prop settings tools. The sensor map is the most important place that I highly suggest for everyone to always look at. When you connect your suit onto Axis Neuron, you're going to see this little guy here with, right now by default it's, grayed out. There's nothing going on. But once you have your suit connected, you want to make sure that these guys are green, everything's good to go. You're going to have 3 different colors: green, yellow, or red. Green and yellow, it's the normal work mode. If you have red, there's something that needs to be addressed. There's times that the sensors might change to red. Those are things that happens because maybe there's you're on Wi-Fi mode. There's there's data loss on that sensor. Now, it's only a problem if the sensor map says there's a red dot, more than I'd say more than 3 seconds or so. That's kind of like an issue. So it's something to definitely look at that. So normal working mode is green and yellow. On that one, you also have the tool if you want to use the tool. Also, sensor map is very important because it's where you select your body size. If you have 5 actors connected inside of Axis Neuron, make sure you select the body size for everyone. So that's very important. Once you have 5 actors, you'll have settings for 0 pose or calibration. Whenever you want to calibrate character number 3, for example, you can start naming them so that you don't forget who's who in that. So, for example, if I have 5 characters, I want to zero out a certain character. I can select the person. You'll see like a drop down there, and you can actually zero their pose only or calibrate them by themselves. You don't want to go into this window if you have 5 characters, because the moment you do that, you just either disconnect everyone or you force everyone to calibrate at the same time, which is not what we want in a multiple actor scenario. So definitely, pay attention to that. So I'll go into the default here, full functioning. So that is the sensor map window. At the bottom here, prop settings. Prop settings is if you have, a prop tool cable. It's a little thin cable that you can connect. That, remember, it can be connected either on the left shoulder or right shoulder. That tracks rotation. So you can parent that sensor onto your hand, to your fingertip or something, and then Perception Neuron would just capture the rotation data. It's good if you have a sword prop or some kind of any kind of prop, so you want to capture that unique rotation sometimes. So there's an option of assigning those for everyone out there. For contact editing, you have the option of editing. This is the next panel. Sorry, to contact editing here. This is also very important. Once you capture your performance and you open up the file, in this case I have a file open, you're gonna see like a checkerboard kind of look here. These are color coded, are very important because it either tells you if there's a contact point or a uncontact. There's not a contact point, so it's either like 0 or 1. There's either contact or not. You have, by default, Axis Neuron does left or right. If you're doing hand capturing, and by that means you select hands right here, or you select hips. You can actually have different options of editing the left, right, hand, or the hip. That becomes a little bit more advanced. We'll go over that in another session. But that's very important to understand. You can do this actually in post. You can you can select, you can add different functions here that you want to edit. So by scrolling here, you can scroll through the timeline. You can minimize. You can focus in on a frame that you might want. You can actually export this as well. You don't want to export the entire capture. Maybe you just want to break it down and just export a certain part of the timeline. So that's also an option there. This is your typical transpose here. This is you can go back or forward, go just play. You can loop as well. We use a loop button for demos sessions. Whenever we're showcasing Reallusion's iClone, Notch, or any other Unity, and we're just playing back capture. We loop this file. You also have the options of changing the replay mode, either 10 times or half, tenth of a time. So that's also option as well. At the bottom here, moving on to the next panel, you have the working directory. Working directory is very important. By default, as I mentioned earlier, Axis Neuron has a directory inside of Motion through in the Motion files inside of the Noidum folder and in the documents. We include demo files for the Axis Neuron demo software and the full version of Axis Neuron Pro. So that is available there for everyone to test out. And then once you start recording, if you start recording multiple times, and you're basically dealing with different settings in every case, file management is very important. You can change directories if you want. You can check the FCD files here as well. You have options of doing that. See, right now I have the FCD file for an X file, whichever one I have open. You can change the directory if you want. You can create one as well, open folder, and that's kind of very important. So I definitely suggest everyone to feel comfortable with it. Don't record inside of the default folder. Maybe just create another folder so that file management. So that where this file came from. Naming convention is very important. Moving on to the next panel here, we have the parameters panel that also includes model alignment, body size manager, smooth factor, and data visualizer. Now this is there's a lot of information here. I'm seeing a couple of comments through the YouTube. I will do I will do a contact editing session next week. That's going to be very helpful for anyone how to edit. This panel right here is very important so that you understand at the capturing stage that and you adjust the sensor parameters so that when you're recording, everything is working good. So this window here is very important. There's the model alignment. Model alignment allows you to change the orientation of the character. I can change that as we go. We also have the pitch and roll. There's, I'll bring this over in the following video. Definitely stay tuned for that one. And then parameters. Parameters deals with the sensor. How does the sensor behave in the environment? Do you want to capture this? Do you want the sensors? Do you want Axis Neuron to capture the foot contact, the hip contact, the hand contact? How sensitive should my sensor receive a contact point? So this parameters panel, very important. I highly suggest it to look at during the capturing phase so that you feel comfortable that the suit will behave correctly in your environment. And this all depends on your environment. By default, there's a default feature. You can reset it and you can hit apply. And you'll see that a lot of things did change right now on my contact point. There's a couple of things that happened there. Again, I'll go over this following week on that. So this is a very important window to understand. The body size, as I mentioned last video, also very important. It's just for Axis Neuron to understand who's performing. We all come in shapes and sizes, and it's very important to let Axis Neuron understand, how tall you are, how short you are, whatever the case may be. Smooth factor. Smooth factor is kind of like, your little polishing. You clean your car and you get, you basically you want to polish it at the end. So this is, your polishing feature here for animation, and what that does is just smooths out the animation curves. It's kind of a standard thing. When you're capturing motion, there's always going to be some kind of a jitter on the motion. So that's always the nature of thing. If you want to just smooth out that, almost like a Euler function, if you will, that'll smooth out that, the animation curves. And you have the option of smoothing it out specifically just for the hip, for the feet, others, for on the displacement or rotations of those bones. So that's also there. And there's a workflow of that. When do you do it? When you can't. So again, I'll go over that next week for the most part, so that everyone can get comfortable. When should I do it? Should I do it now? So there's a workflow on that. There's also a data visualizer. This is more for reference. If you select, if I just want to see a bone, I want to isolate a bone, for example, on the hips, and I can check out the displacement here. I just make that quick selection here. I'm just checking out the BVH data, and I hit play, and I get that information. That's more of a visual reference for everyone out there. Now, if you really want to get more advanced in that data, again, that's the .calc file that you get on there. So that's more of that panel right there. And then one last thing as well. Before we move on to the questions out there. I see a lot of questions out there. Again, thank you guys for putting these questions out there. On the settings panel of Axis Neuron, so that everyone understands the difference here. Parameters adjust the motion capture for the, it's an adjustment for the recording process. When you're doing real-time data, the settings is your friend. Settings, you have the output format, BVH data by default. Axis Neuron exports the data in BVH, and then you have frequency. How many frames should I get? Should I export full frames, or should I be streaming half the frames, a fourth of or the eighth? You have the option of triggering the displacement. Some software don't necessarily need displacement data, and so on. And if you're streaming calculation data, this is the options you want. You can also just change your shortcuts. You have advanced contact optimization level. By default, that's 2. If you increase this to for example, to 10 or something, you're going to see a lot of your animation is going to play back very smooth. It's kind of like, to what extent do you want to have that contact optimization? Do you want it more to real world capture, or do you want it to be smooth out, the curves? It's like a Bezier thing. If you smooth it out too much, you might lose that that function as well. And then you have your gyro mode. Gyro mode, you have your 9-axis, 6-axis, and auto detect. I kind of went over that last week for everyone out there to understand. Know your sensors. This is what's going on. By default, auto detect is on, so the sensors are auto detecting your environment. For that, go to the Know Your Sensors video that we have out there. Inside of broadcasting, you have your options of TCP broadcasting or UDP broadcasting. And that, for example, really quick, Unity reads TCP, Unreal sees UDP. Very simple. And for everyone out there, there's options of either exporting through binary or string. You can set up your port if you want to get a little bit more advanced. You can check out our manuals out there. By default, we tell everyone we have suggestions for default features so that it can work right off the bat. We also, with this new version of Axis Neuron, we added data server. That's a function that's still brand new. It's by default it's enabled. You can customize the special port for data reading. That's more real-time data. So that's the most important things out there for settings for everyone to feel comfortable. and understand for the most part on that window. And the export, very, very straightforward export. You have the BVH here, the FBX process. A lot of our users tend to overlook the process BVH. We're familiar with the MOCAP workflow. Sometimes you might need the T-pose on the beginning of the frame or after the frame. You can actually select this here. You can select head of frame, tail frame, or head and tail. So that's something just to, if your production line needs that, there's an option for that. Again, that's only available for BVH. So check out those FBX. There's options there. There's calculation files. So that's something to always remember. One cool thing about the exporting, a lot of our users might not know this. If you're using 5 characters, if you're recording a session of 5 characters, you can actually export either the entire file, or you can export character-specific files. So there's an option of that. Right now, since this is just an example of one character, there's only one right at the moment. But if I recorded 5 characters, you'll see 5 characters here, and I can name them. I can name the file. I can export that. So that's an option there as well. You also have the option of setting up the frames you want to export. Very, very straightforward on that one. So that's the basis of Axis Neuron, the user interface out there. Feel comfortable with it, and adjusts the how perception neuron behaves. So definitely feel comfortable with that. Next week again, we will go over context editing and how to go over just those features out there, the workflow. I will be recording a session there so that everyone can see extreme uses of it. I found a kind of like an exercise there that everyone can do and practice. Axis Neuron is more, you can edit contact points, you can smooth out animation, you can export or use it as real time. So there's an option as well. So going back to that, I'm going to go into the questions and Q&A so that everyone can shoot out there anything that, any questions that you have. So I'm going to go up there. So is there a 3ds Max plugin at the moment? First question. Right now, there's no 3ds Max plugin. At the moment, we just support the file export for BBH on 3ds Max for perception neuron. So there's a lot of in the MOCAP industry. There's a lot of questions out there. Should there be a Maya plugin? Should there be a motion builder plugin? A lot of times everyone says, well, there's a motion builder plugin that you can edit animation. Then you edit that stuff. You fix up your character, and then you export that data into any 3D software package, either Maya, Unity, or any other Unreals like that. So typical workflow is you capture, you edit, and then you export it to your software. If you're jumping in from live stream directly into Maya, you don't have that capability of editing full. You're kind of getting too much of the raw data. Motion capture all around, no matter what you're using, does require some fine tuning. I think that's the word to use. Fine tuning is very important for motion capture, because imagine if you're using a character that's that's a big hefty guy, 300 pounds, and you're mocapping a regular guy. It's hard to use that data and quickly map it to a big hefty character. You have to do some kind of editing. So that's an animator's job there or anybody in the workflow to edit that. So this kind of depends on if you're one-man band kind of generalist thing, then yeah, I could maybe understand. Usual workflow is, in a team, you have a set of steps. You record, edit, fine-tune, then you put into your 3D software package where it's final production at that point. Just give me a second. I'm reading here the comments. Again, thank you again, guys, for stopping by and watching the video. We'll keep this video online for everyone to check out. So the gyro mode is just, the gyro mode inside of Axis Neuron. This is a quick question, just going over. Perception Neuron has a mode that you can automatically just read the 3-axis 6 or auto. So there's an option of that. It just all it does it's auto. It by default it just auto adjusts depending on the environment. We highly suggest using all of them, but the auto detect will adjust according to the environment. That's all that gyro mode does on that side. That's for the gyroscope, of course. So the lower body mode, just kind of going over this question. Lower body mode, during that video, in order to use lower body mode, you do need your upper body strap. The sensors on the straps on the legs do not, there's two different connections, the left and right leg. You can't connect two of those cables onto the hub. You actually connect those legs onto your upper body strap, and then you connect your hub to the mainline connection, and everything just, once you connect inside of Axis Neuron, you'll basically get that option of selecting lower body mode. But you still need an upper body strap for that to work. So a lot of users, when they experience, just a quick question, during the first part of my performance, everything works out great. During the end, it starts degrading. That's something that's, we want our customers to, users to understand that sensor maintenance is important. The environment, understanding the environment is important. Upmost, by default, check your environment. Make sure that wherever you're performing, there's no interference. There's an app out there, like a magnetometer app, that you can survey your area. Once that's out of the way, then we don't have to worry about the sensors getting affected by anything. Now, if you're performing in an environment and then your bones start moving and then it's kind of like all over the place, then I would suggest going into the tools and calibrating your sensors. Just checking for the sensor quality. There's a step-by-step on how to go into there and then kind of checking the status of your sensor. And ultimately, it's all about how responsive is the sensor when you're doing a calibration sensor. If you're doing a calibration, the sensor is not responsive, obviously there's drifting in there. So check your sensors, see if there's any magnetized sensors that need to be addressed. That'll minimize the error over time. That just means that right off the bat, I'm understanding that you're performing, it's working out good, and then the sensors are magnetized. So what it's doing is it's multiplying that data that it has, and then if you were talking about rotation, it's going to be multiplying that rotation, and then you start getting bones that are out of place for that. So that's something to keep in mind. Just going a little bit lower down here, just kind of make sure everybody's taken care of. So is there a case that you recommend? On our website, check out our product store. We have an anti-mag case. All our Perception Neuron kits, by default, are shipped with the EVA case. It's like a lunchbox. It's a very nifty thing to carry around. We travel around, to demos with that case. It works wonderful. Of course, every time we suit down, we remove the sensors and put them in the anti-mag case so that they're in a safekeeping area. For a lot of road warriors out there, if you're on call and you just want to go to the video shoot and just record, and you don't have time to remove the sensors, there's an anti-mag case out there that you can use. If it's one suit perfectly inside, when that does is that you minimize that time that you remove the sensors and you just keep the suit all together, put it away. It's safe, protected from any interference. So that's on our product store. That's the anti-mag case for everyone out there. That's one of our accessories out there for those road warriors, what we like to call. So I think that's it for Q&A. Thank you again for looking at this video, checking the video, and understanding a little bit more of what Axis Neuron is all about. And again, don't forget, let me put that link out here. This is the how to get your copy of the full version. Register your hardware on our website. There's a link out there. Don't forget about that. Once you register, you're going to get a confirmation email with the software. So don't forget about that link there. And thank you again, guys. Next week, we're going to be talking about more advanced stuff with, Axis Neuron, with the parameters, workflow of editing. Once you get your character, you start recording. With the workflow on that, so that everyone understands the tools. There's a process to it, and we'll talk about that. If you have any questions regarding that for next week, any doubts, leave them in the comments. We'll bring that out for the next video. And I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. For all those users out there, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Check our media feeds, our Facebook, Instagram. We're active out there. We're constantly showcasing everyone's what they've produced out there, and it's very amazing what everyone's coming up with, and our community is constantly growing. So that is very, very important out there. You guys have made this happen. So it is very important for everyone to be connected, for everyone out there. Again, email us at contact@neuromocap.com. Thank you again, guys, and stay happy MOCAP.